The Iowa Hawkeyes are on the board in the win column in the Big Ten. Iowa with the 80-75 victory over the Maryland Terrapins. And an up-and-down game finishes with a win, and that's all that counts, especially in the Big Ten Conference. I am not going to ever complain about a Big Ten win. I see, Eric, your comment here. We'll put that up here in a second. Actually, I'll go ahead and put it up there now. I understand the frustration blowing the lead, and we've seen Iowa do this, and it's starting to become a bit of a habit and one that Iowa will want to correct. But the fact that this is the second time they have blown a lead and then closed. Of course, they blew the big lead against Virginia, found a way to win that game. Did blow a big lead, a fairly big lead against Illinois, lost that game. And I believe I'm missing a game that they blew a big lead in, and I can't think of it at the moment. But the bottom line is this is a good win. Absolutely. See Adam's comment here. Absolutely big win, good win. And the Hawkeyes are 1-2 in the conference. 80-75, and we are taking your calls, taking your chats. We'll be joined in just moments, just minutes, by Coach Gary Close, former Iowa basketball coach Gary Close. He'll be here to break it all down for us. But our line is open if you want to call us, 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. The story in this game, obviously, Keegan Murray. I mean, the guy is just ridiculous. We're seeing him now doing it against really good competition. There was a bit of a question. I don't mind Trey Demps, the guy in the BTN studio, former Northwestern player, I believe, making that comment prior to the game. There was a question that would Keegan Murray be able to continue to produce the way he had been producing against teams in the Big Ten Conference. We hadn't seen it because he didn't play against Purdue, and I don't think he was healthy against Illinois. I don't think he was healthy against Iowa State. Coach Close has said that pretty forwardly in the past. So the fact that Iowa was able to get it done and Keegan Murray had this kind of night, again, the efficiency, folks, this is what's incredible about what Keegan Murray is doing. And I know Brian Butch and Kevin Kugler made this comment during the game that what he's doing, he doesn't take bad shots. He hardly breaks a sweat. He reminds me of Roger Federer. If you ever watched Roger Federer back in his prime play, the dude could go 5 long sets and not break a sweat. And that's kind of what Keegan Murray did tonight. 38 minutes of time and just thoroughly dominated. 8 boards. Again, quiet 8 boards. It seems like at times I want him to do more on the glass, but 8 rebounds. I think he's the second leading. He might be the leading rebounder. Let me check the box score here for Iowa. Yeah, he's tied with Philip Rebracha, who, by the way, I thought had a terrific game tonight. We can talk about Philip's performance, especially on the glass here when Coach Close joins us. But let's get to our first phone call. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
This is David from Indiana again, Cory.
David, what did you think about that performance? It's a Big Ten win.
It was a good game. Game of spurts for sure. You came out hot in the first part of the first half, and then we took our foot off the gas. Maryland played tough, took the lead into halftime. Iowa came back. I thought it was just a game of spurts, and rebounding towards the end of the game was excellent for us, I thought, when we needed them. Timely rebounds, timely steals. As I mentioned a couple times ago, it's the little things, and rebounding and steals and defense is the little things, and we proved that we can do that against a team that's kind of struggling right now, but it's a Big Ten team. They're a Power 5 team, and what can you say about Keegan? I mean, I think last time you and I talked, we said the same thing. Can he do it against the tougher opponents? And he proved me wrong. He proved Trey Demps wrong. I mean, if he keeps improving, he's going to be an outstanding player for us.
Well, let's be honest. I agree with you that this is a game Iowa had to have, but let's call a spade a spade. This is a team in Maryland that did just beat Florida, and I don't think that's a bad Maryland team. I know they're going through a coaching change. I'll be anxious to get Coach Close's perspective on the Terrapins. I thought they played really sound defense. That zone is tough to penetrate, and boy, Iowa found a way to rebound well out of the zone, and at least in the second half. And I was impressed with what I saw.
Yeah, I was too. Like I said, they rebounded in a timely. There was a stretch there at the end of the first half and going into the second half that they didn't rebound well. But right. Then when we needed it, they came in and they got it done. where I think at one of the timeouts, I'm sure Fran got on him. You got to rebound. I couldn't, in the first half, Maryland miss a shot, get the rebound, and they would go up and score. I mean, you just can't let teams do that. And if we continue to work on that this season, I think we'll be a tough out for any team out there.
Absolutely, sir.
So with that, I'll hang up and let's do the rest of the show. Thanks, Cory.
Always enjoy the calls. Thank you so much. And I believe we do have Coach Gary Close here with us. Let's add Coach to the mix. Gary, how are you this evening?
Good, Cory. How are you?
That double header on BTN. I bet you're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, that was a good night of basketball for sure.
All right, so let's get to it. You see the stat line up on the screen here. We already had a caller bring up Keegan's performance, doing it against one of the better defensive teams in the Big Ten. Although I think there are a lot of good defensive teams in this conference, Gary. First of all, that's the first question I want to ask you. How good is Maryland? How would you rank them? I know they just beat Florida. They're going through a coaching change. I thought this was a game Iowa needed to win, but I don't think it's a bad Maryland team.
No, not at all. I really haven't seen him play much this year. It's kind of my first time, and a couple of players from here, and they got some good young talent, and I think it's a good win. It's a good win. I think they're a solid team. The league is tough, so who knows where they're going to end up, but any win in this league is a good one for sure. And they did enough things well to get their first Big Ten win, which is important because they got to get back on the road again in a few days.
What do you think about Keegan Murray tonight? I mean, again, 35 points, but the efficiency, he doesn't ever seem to take more than 20 shots in a game. Took 21 tonight, but I thought Kevin Kugler and Brian Butch did a nice job kind of breaking down his effortless play. Hardly breaks a sweat, and he rarely takes bad shots.
Yeah, no, he was terrific, and they needed every bucket. He had one stretch there towards the end of the half where he struggled a little bit, and that's where Maryland made their run. And then from that time on, he was just terrific, and at both ends of the floor, rebounding, shooting a high percentage, making big shots. He is really fun to watch.
And his three-point shooting tonight was particularly impressive to me because that's been something that's been kind of a bit up and down, but 5 of 6 from 3. If he can shoot at that clip, I maybe this is jumping to conclusions, but if he can shoot at that clip from outside, I think he's a lottery pick. Am I wrong?
He probably will be. Yeah, I think that's where he's headed. You never know, but he is trending upward. There's no question about it, and at a fast rate. So better enjoy every chance you can to see him because it may not last much longer.
Absolutely. And of course, one bugaboo that you have from this game, and I know a couple of people have brought it up in the chat already this evening. Eric brought it up to start. He said, frustrating game. I know it's a win. We jump out to a 12-point lead. Thought we'd win by 20. This is, by my count, at least the third game against high major opponents where Iowa has blown a big lead. Now, Virginia, they found a way to win, but they were up by 20 plus in that game, blow the lead, end up losing the lead. They win that game. Illinois, they were up, I believe, by double figures, ended up blowing that lead and losing. Is that a concern of yours at this point that Iowa goes into a lull at some point in that first half and finds a way to lose a lead they've been able to gain?
Yeah, I thought tonight it just came really easy at the beginning, and sometimes you can get into a little bit of rut thinking, oh, geez, this is the way it's going to be the whole game. And, teams make adjustments, play better, play harder. And all of a sudden the scoring gets a little more difficult. And that's where your defense has got to hold their own so that teams don't make runs at you. And I thought their defense got a little suspect there late, especially containing the ball. I think they had a hard time containing the ball. And I think that's part of the reason why they played so much zone as the game went on. But they found a way to win. I mean, you're gonna have games where things go up and down. It's hard to play a perfect 40 minutes, but you obviously like to play as close to as you can because the league is tough. So there were enough good minutes out there tonight to get a great win.
All right, first half, the edge really, if you just look at the stat sheet, was rebounding. Now Maryland was shooting at a slightly higher clip. I didn't think Iowa's defense was all that good after the first 5-6 minutes, but 22-16 was the edge for Maryland at halftime. on the glass. And let me grab the final stat here because Iowa did a pretty good job. It was 30-30 at one point. Now Maryland ended up with a 38-34 advantage on the glass. But as I understand, that's a pretty good Maryland team as far as rebounding the basketball. Iowa, I was really proud. I'll say this. I was really proud of the effort of Philip Brada this evening. This seemed to be the first night that I noticed him. He stood out, had 8 boards, had a career high in points as well. What did you see from Philip? This seemed like he needed it.
Yeah, I think that was his best game in a Hawkeye uniform without question. He shot a real high percentage. He rebounded the ball. He made some tough shots inside and played a real good game. Hopefully that'll give him some confidence as the season goes on. But that was a nice step forward for him.
I made a note, Gary, and I wanted to ask you about this. And I saw somebody on Twitter at halftime comment on this. The hockey line changes, if you will, that Fran sometimes deploys. And at times it works. I think back to the Illinois game where I believe, if I recall, the starting unit really started slow. The bench came in and kind of got them back in the game, and then they took the lead. This game was sort of the opposite. The starting unit starts off hot, obviously led by Keegan. And I don't know, I can't remember if Fran, I don't think he subbed all 5 at one time, but basically we went to a totally different group of players on the floor and the lead disintegrated. And then at that point, he did do the hockey line change at 5 out. So is that something that Bo did? Is that something that Dr. Tom did? And how do you feel about the hockey lineup changes?
Well, I think you got to get a feel for your team and who's playing well. And I don't know if we ever made that much of wholesale changes. Maybe at times, when a unit is just not playing very well and you want to get all of them out of there. I thought that second unit struggled a little bit when they got in there. And so I think he had seen enough and was losing the lead and wanted to go back to the group that had played well. So in some cases, it's warranted. It's hard to really comment when you're not exactly knowing what he's trying to do substitution wise. Because in some cases it's just a feel and how teams are playing, how guys are playing. So it's not something he does on a continual basis. I thought in this game, the game got away from that second team a little bit, and he went right back to that first group that had played really well at the beginning, and probably was a smart move.
Gary, did you coach Brian Butch?
Sure did.
Talk a little bit about Brian. I wanted to ask you about this, and since he did the game tonight, I'm curious, what was Brian like?
Well, Brian was interesting. Brian was McDonald's All-American. He was one of the most sought-after recruits coming out of his class. North Carolina, there were a lot of really terrific schools after him, and he was a local kid, so he chose Wisconsin. But he redshirted his first year. He just wasn't ready physically, and fortunately, we had enough players in front of him that we could do that. And so you don't have too many McDonald's All-Americans redshirt. But he went on to have a terrific career for us. In fact, I thought we had a chance to win the national championship his junior or senior year. We were really good. And then we lost. We played Ohio State for the Big Ten championship, the last game of the year on their court. And he hurt his shoulder about a minute into the game. And then we lost him for the entire NCAA tournament. And we got knocked out. I think we got knocked out in the second round. And it really hurt. But he was a really solid two-way player, could score a little inside, could shoot the three, played hard, real good player for us.
You rather listen to Jess Settles or Brian Butch?
That's a good question.
I
think they both do a good job. They both enjoy what they're doing. They love the game, and you can hear their enthusiasm in their voice, and so it's kind of fun for me to listen to some of my older players.
Yeah.
You can hear some of the things that Brian was taught at Wisconsin. Some of those things kind of come through as he's explaining things, and the same thing with Jess. And
we've seen Ben Brust. I don't know if he's still employed by Big Ten Network, but he's been in the
Ben
studio.
Actually got picked up by the Milwaukee Bucks. He's a radio color guy, I think, for home games or something. So I don't think he does any more Big Ten games because of the scheduling conflicts. Interesting stat line. If you're looking at the box score here, we brought up Philip Brada, 13 points, 8 rebounds. Him and Keegan, those are the only two guys in double figures. Does that surprise you when you think about the balance everywhere else? A little bit, yeah. Yeah, it does. I don't think there's any question. There were some guys that had off nights, and that's why they needed all the points from Keegan, and that's why Phillips' contributions really helped, because if we hadn't gotten them, then the game would have been even tighter and might have gone the other way. So, hey, you just try to find a way to win. Some nights it's one guy, and some nights it's another, and in this case, Keegan was terrific, and Phillip gave some really good, solid minutes that were needed.
Gary, if I told you that Iowa would get only 10 points from their bench and only have 2 starters in double figures, would you assume a loss?
Maybe. Yeah. I think that would worry you probably going in if that were the case. Yeah. But when you got a lottery pick that can cover up some of the other problems that you might have.
Absolutely. I want to get to a couple of comments, and our line is open. Coach Close is with us for about a half hour. Our line is open, 515-635-1601. Eric says, did I miss something? Where was Sanford? I think we're going to see this. You talked about it a few weeks ago. There are going to be games where he's either off or Fran just doesn't see a spot. He's probably the 10th guy in the rotation right now, Gary. There are going to be games where he just doesn't play much.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, especially when Purdue went zone. I thought maybe we might see him with his outside shooting. I think he might have been a little concerned with the matchups defensively and the quickness. That Maryland's quick. Iowa had a hard time staying in front of Maryland. I think that's, as we said, I think that's part of the reason why they went zone. And maybe that's the reason why Sanford didn't play, assuming that he's healthy, because I was surprised he didn't play at all.
Appreciate this compliment from Adam. Says these post-game shows are awesome, and we appreciate you listening from Arizona. I know you're not alone down there. Plenty of Hawkeye fans in the great state of Arizona. And same to you, Darth Van, for listening. He says, thought the massive sub decision in the first half really affected the league. Probably better to sub 1 or 2. Would be nice to see Patrick taking smarter shots. And I've always stated that, Gary. And there's going to be times where you're going to complain about Patrick's shot selection, because I don't think he takes what I would deem to be high percentage shots. But his knack is making those shots. He tends to make them. But when he doesn't make them, like a night like tonight, it's going to stand out. And he didn't play a lot of minutes. We saw Fran, and we didn't see Jordan really get a lot of minutes in that second half. Fran has shown the willingness, regardless of if it's a sixth-year senior in Jordan or if it's one of his 2 sons, he's going to play the guys that are down the stretch, the guys that are playing the best that night, regardless of who starts the game.
And that's the way it should be. I mean, you got to earn your minutes, and the whole objective is to win. I mean, that's the most important part. And he went with the lineup that he thought gave him the best chance with the way Maryland was playing and what he was trying to do. So you got to go with it. I can see it.
All right. And he's going to have to remind me about Eric brought this up in a show where you were not with me the other night, Gary. He says, ask Gary about Sir Jamalot. You're going to have to get me up to speed. What is Sir Jamalot? Who is Sir Jamalot?
Sir Jamalot was Gary Wright, who played the 5 for us our first year at Iowa, the team that went to the Elite 8. Left-handed, phenomenal athlete, about 6'7", 6'6", 6'7". He actually got hurt at the beginning of the year. We had to play Eddie Horton, who was a freshman at the time, which helped us in the long run because it gave us a little more depth. But he was terrific in pressure defense. Fans loved him because he was a phenomenal dunker, really, really incredible athlete. And so it was fun to watch. So that's a name from the past. That goes back a ways.
Yeah, Eric says Jerry Wright was, or is it Gary or Jerry? What'd you say?
Gary.
Okay. Says he was awesome. So I'll have to, I forgot to do that. I'll have to look up some YouTube videos of Mr. Wright. I do have a call here for you, Gary. I don't want to forget our caller.
Okay.
Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm, our Iowa postgame. Who's on the line?
Gary from Arizona. I'm one of those Arizona guys you were talking about.
Gary, how are you this evening?
I'm great. Always like a victory.
Absolutely. What'd you think of
I
the
bet the weather's a little nicer there than here.
Yeah, the weather is pretty nice here.
So, Gary, are you?
I was actually on my way out there on Friday to visit some family for a week. And because of COVID and all this craziness with airports and flights and COVID, we end up canceling. So I was going to watch the Iowa-Wisconsin game on Thursday and out there Friday, but it's going to be on hold. So, do you have a question?
You still with us, Gary?
Yeah, I'm still with you. I thought both of the McCaffrey players did not play well tonight. Patrick seemed not to be hitting his shots, and Connor, I think, should not take threes. In several of the last games, Connor's been shooting, and I don't know how many he's hit. So unless it's like 2 seconds left in the shot clock, I don't think he should shoot. He should pass to somebody else.
Gary, your thoughts on that? I mean, I will say I don't think Connor only took 1 3 tonight. He's just struggling from outside.
Yeah, you can see it. And tonight was not a great night for Patrick. He's had some good games for Iowa. This was not one of them, and I think that reflected in the amount of minutes he played. Connor's in there because he's a really good defender. He's a good post passer. He doesn't turn the ball over, makes very few mistakes. And when he's surrounded by other guys that can shoot, then he's not as much a liability as he might be if he didn't have that. So he's a veteran player that's won a lot of games. And so there are going to be moments when, from a chemistry standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, what have you, he's going to be out there, and he's probably earned that with the way he's played in his career so far. So maybe got to pick and choose the moments. But I thought, that stretch there at the end where they widened their lead, he was in there and did some good things.
Yeah, I think he's a good player. I just don't think he should try three-pointers because he just hasn't shown the ability to hit those. I mean, when he shoots, it's not going in.
And Gary, you've said in the past, I'm talking to Coach, you've said in the past that you don't think he's got a bad stroke, right? I mean, he just is struggling to get.
Yeah, it looks more like a lack of confidence, which, you can, that can happen. The kid at Wisconsin, he hasn't made a three all year, Tyler Wall, and he's like an 85% free throw shooter. And so that's confidence. That's a mental situation that hopefully he can get through. And maybe the same thing with Connor. I mean, he's never been a prolific 3-point shooter. He's out there for other reasons, but he doesn't take so many that he shoots you out of games. But I know he's probably frustrated as well because he looks like he's a better shooter than what the results are.
Yeah, and I was watching, and several times Bohannon was open, and they did not pass the ball to him. At the end, of course, because of his shooting, he was highlighted. But earlier in the game, he was open several times for threes.
Yeah, I didn't think they moved the balls as crisply after the first few minutes than they have in the past. I thought they did struggle a little bit when they didn't get anything in transition in the half court. I didn't think they were quite as sharp as they have been, and that's where you may have seen a few times when he was open, where they didn't make the extra pass, maybe a little bit too much dribbling, and that's something that they can improve. But I thought offensively, at times they were a little stagnant, and but you score 80 points, it's hard to complain too much. But I mean, I think that's the potential that they have. That maybe from an execution standpoint, they work great, and yet they still scored 80.
Yeah, it's a great team altogether. Sometimes players will have a good game or not a good game, but I also noticed that it seemed like there was a lot of empty seats there tonight.
Yeah, I want to talk to Coach about that this evening. I think a factor is I don't think the students are back yet, from my understanding. I do think Iowa has a problem. That's just me speaking. I think Iowa has a problem connecting with students in basketball right now because students just aren't showing up. But Coach, I know you were at the Western Illinois game and you were impressed by the crowd, but the students are just not at these games right now.
Yeah, and I think you're touching on a little bit. But I think the big part is they're on break. They've got a couple of weeks for class start, I think. So that even tied to Purdue. But the atmosphere of Purdue was nothing like it normally is because there were no students there. Now the place was packed, unlike at Iowa. It was packed, but it was not nearly the home court advantage. And quite frankly, it might have cost them the game. They only lost by 5 points, and if that had been a typical Purdue crowd, that might have been enough to put them over the top. So during the break, you're not going to have quite the same atmosphere. But I'm surprised. I'm surprised there aren't more people there because this is a fun team to watch. You got a lottery pick a kid playing every night that's not going to be there next year. I can almost guarantee you. If he keeps playing like he's playing, he's gone. He's going to be a rich man and moving on. So you're down to about 8 more chances to watch him play. Hopefully, when the students get back. And I know it was a late game. The 8 o'clock games don't help attendance at all because some of those people got to drive a couple hours, and you're not out of there 10:30 on home till 1 in the morning. But hopefully that's going to pick up because home court advantages are big, and I thought it hurt Purdue tonight.
Well, Coach, let me just challenge you on something. And I'm not saying you're wrong about the late tips, but I also hear fans make excuses that the 6 o'clock tips are too early. So if you don't like 8 o'clock, I'm serious. I hear it all the time. We start to get the family around after work and whatnot. So if you don't like 6, you don't like 8. So that's just how it is with TV times now. You're going to have 6, 8 slots. You're not going to have a lot of 7 p.m. So at some point, I'm not at a lot of games. I live 2 hours away, but I do get frustrated by it. Now, I have heard from people who are season ticket holders that they're having problems with concession workers. The lines are forever. If you want to go get an ice cream cone, you're waiting there for an hour. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think they've got some problems. And I really do. This is something that I know we've still got our caller on the line, so I don't want to open up a whole different can of worms, but I really do feel like Iowa needs to let students in for free because they're having a problem connecting with students. And this is not a new problem. This has been a problem for years now. And these are exciting. You brought it up. These are exciting teams to watch. Does Wisconsin let their students in for free? Do you know, Gary?
No, I don't think it's free. I don't think it's a lot, but I don't think it's free. I doubt there are any places where they're free, but maybe
I think there are a few. I think there are a few in the Big Ten. I could be wrong. I have to validate that, but my understanding is there are a few. And
I'll sure tell you that if I still lived in Cedar Rapids, I'd be going to all the games.
Yeah, and I don't think that's I think. I don't know if you can put it on one thing. I think it's a combination of that the starting times are a little bit different. I think it's a combination of the games are all on TV. I know they have been in the past, but people they got their beautiful TVs and feet up, and I think this team was not thought to be very good at the beginning of the year. I think they surprised some people. Obviously, Kenyon has surprised some people, or Keegan has surprised the way he's played, but they've got some work to do to get people in the arena. There's no question about that. But I think they're trying. I mean, when I've gone to the games, they got things going on at every break, and it's a little surprising. I'm surprised, but you see it all around. Wisconsin now doesn't sell out anymore. We had a streak where we were, I don't know, some 150, 160 games in a row. We were sold out. They're 2,000, 3,000 seats under capacity. And so I think it's the sign of time to COVID. I think the whole thing has had effect, and hopefully when the students come back, that will change. But we've always felt in Iowa it's a little different, and you got a lot of people that drive from a long way away. I mean, Iowa City is a small little town, and if you're a couple hours away coming to a game, if it's at 6, you got to leave at 3:30, and you got to work. And if it's at 8, you're not getting home until 1 o'clock in the morning. And so it's, and they have very few weekend games. This year, I think they only got a couple, which, is not great. So I think the changing TV times because of television, and the Big Ten Network and all that, I think that hurts. I don't think it's the main reason, but it's disappointing because it's a really, really fun team to watch.
I think all of the McCaffrey teams have been fun to watch, and they play hard. Whether they win or not, they play hard. They put a lot of energy in, and I like how passionate the coach is.
I do too.
Yeah, I would agree with all that.
So I'll hang up and let you guys continue.
All right, sir.
Okay, Gary, thanks.
Arizona. Appreciate that call. And yeah, you're going to be a little bit kinder to. I'm not upset at the fans, but this has been an issue I've had with the athletic department. I just feel like the reward you're going to get by letting students in for free is much greater than what we're getting right now. I mean, these seats are empty now. Again, I understand right now it's break.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens once break is over. But I mean, Iowa State's a perfect, and I see this comment by Spaghetti Factory that Iowa State still shows up to games. The students are still pretty rowdy during break here. Now, I didn't watch all of the Baylor game on Saturday because I was watching, of course, the Citrus Bowl. But and again, that's a top 10 team. I understand there are differences there, but I just that's been something that I had wished for a while that Iowa would consider doing. And I also don't think it helps. I know there are some arenas that you can do that. I think Purdue is one. But I would much prefer having students lined up around the court, like you do at Michigan State, for instance, because the students are just so far away from the action. It's not like Kinnick where you're right on top of the field. Is the Kohl Center, remind me of how the Kohl Center is laid out. Are students all the way around the courts?
No. Really, Michigan State's about the only one that's got it. Because the way the arenas are set up now, if you have the students all the way around, they're going to stand up. And then the people that are sitting behind them, and those are probably your big boosters that are giving you all the money. They don't like that. I mean, because they got to stand up the whole game, and they don't want to do that. They want to stand up when they want to stand up. So, Michigan State did it, and when they built that arena, they did that to the point where they could put the students all the way around and stand up and still have people behind them seated and not be obstructed. It was smart, but. All the arenas that have been built now, they're not built like that. And so it's that's not going to change. Wisconsin's in one end zone, Purdue's in one end zone. Obviously Iowa is. And I think if you look at most places, it's going to be like that with some exceptions.
But they're closer to the action, correct? I mean, Iowa, you're so far away in those end zones.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. They might be a hair closer. Not a huge amount, but the seats might be a little bit closer than what it is at Carver.
I just think
that,
maybe I'm not right about the letting students in for free. I do feel like, again, we'll wait and see what happens with fans. I do think the university needs to do something more than what they're doing to help students want to be at these.
I'd like to know the cost. I bet it's not much, and I don't. It may help a little bit, but
I think it's somewhere to $10 to $15 for a Big Ten game. But I mean, Gary,
student season tickets $10 a game.
Yeah, I think the normal, just general ticket is 25 to 30 typically, and I haven't bought a single game ticket this year, but I don't think it's any less than $10.
Maybe somebody will let us know somewhere. I'd be curious what a student season ticket.
Season tickets. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but as far as just a single game ticket, and again, I understand that there are better things to do, but I do look around and I see other universities, other arenas packing out. And again, I know it's, perhaps you brought up Purdue, perhaps right now because of break, it's different, but
yeah,
I do have a couple questions here before we let you go.
Okay.
Coach. Doug Moore says, can Coach talk about the recruitment of Kenyon Murray back in 1992 out of Battle Creek, Michigan?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, he was out of Battle Creek. We fortunately got on him really early. I remember I saw him play down in San Antonio as a sophomore, and I told Rich Walker about him. Rich was from Michigan, and he got on him quickly, did a terrific job, and we got ourselves a little bit of a lead and then held people off. When he made his visit, Chris Street was his host. They really connected. And we were very fortunate to get him. It was a huge get for us. And obviously he was a terrific player for us, great kid. And I'm glad his kids are playing with Iowa as well. So it's been fun to watch. But that was a really good get for us because we had to beat all the Michigan schools out for him. And I think Michigan might have been a little late behind us, but not much. It was a battle, and I think we got an early lead, and he had a great visit, and we held on.
I do believe we have a question here for you, Coach. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
This is Patrick.
Hey, Patrick.
Yeah, I just wanted a couple of things I wanted to say here. I first met, Coach Gary Close about 4 days after Tom Davis decided to come to Iowa. I was back in either 87 or 88, and it was like 4 days after the announcement, and Gary was at the iClub banquet in Sioux City. And I talked to him afterwards. I'm not sure there was too many people there that actually knew who he was. But
Probably not.
so I talked to Gary for about 10 minutes, and I asked him about the style of play that Tom Davis ran. He said, well, let me tell you this. He said, there might be times where it kind of looks a little bit like organized chaos, but we're gonna get up and down the court. And, those were some fun years. And what Gary told me that day was exactly what Tom Davis did. And those were some really fun years. And, and talking about Gary Wright, and maybe Coach Gary remembers this, but the only time that I've ever seen an away crowd gasp is when Gary Wright literally jumped over the top of a guy from the left side and dunked right over the top of him. And I mean, literally went right over the top of him. And I believe it was at Ohio State. And that was unbelievable. So if you can, Cory, if you can find some clips of Gary Wright, you got to look at it.
I will do that. Absolutely. Coach, do you recall what our caller's explaining there?
He had a number of those games. I mean, they were attention getters. He really was. The other big thing is he had a cartwheel dunk. And we used to have
I saw him do that.
We used to have the shirts and skins games before the football games, scrimmages that the fans would come and watch, and he would do a couple cartwheel dunks for the crowd. So huge hands. He had big, huge hands. He could palm the ball like a ping pong. And he was a terrific athlete. So yeah, he was something to watch.
No, I will definitely look up Gary Wright when we're done with this show. Absolutely, caller.
But you got, Gary, you look great. I mean, it's been 33 years, and so that makes both of us 33 years older. But
there you go.
You look
I will also tell you, I don't know if you remember, but I believe that was my very first iClub, and it was in Sioux City in Nebraska, right?
Sure it was.
And we had just gotten the job. I hustled over there, and I just threw some clothes in my bag. And so I only had one sport coat, and it was I came from Stanford. It was a cardinal red sport coat. I showed up in that in Sioux City, Nebraska. That didn't go over real well. But anyway, those iClubs were unbelievable. The turnout by fans was just incredible.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I guess as far as tonight's game, tonight it was close, but it was a good win. I think Iowa was favored by 9, ended up winning by 5. It was a good win. I don't have to say anything about Keegan Murray. He just does what he does. But I was just glad at the end of the game when it was close that Coach McCaffrey didn't have to make a decision on whether to go for it on 4th and 1.
I love it. Yeah. I will say this, caller. What's the one thing that, maybe Coach Close knows, but what's the one thing, I was going to pose this later in the show, but what's the one thing Fran did tonight that I don't think he's ever done? And I give him a huge attaboy for it. Did you notice?
One thing that he didn't do.
Oh, he did do tonight that I don't believe he's ever done before that I can recall.
You got me on that one.
He fouled up 3, which he normally, I believe, in the past, his philosophy has been play it out. And that's true. Yeah. He fouled up 3, which is a smart move, in my opinion. Coach, was that your philosophy as well?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think in that case it was because they had been shooting pretty well from 3, and they had the full length of the court to go, so it's a little easier to do it there than in the half court where you run the risk of fouling a shooter, but it ended up being a great move because it missed the first free throw and then didn't execute the miss on the second, and the game's over.
Yeah. The only other comment that I had was, I was a little confused as to why Toussaint wasn't in the last 5 minutes.
I think Ulis was playing fairly well there late, Gary. I don't know. Have another explanation for it.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too because I thought he really gave him a spark. I don't know how many assists he ended up with. I'm guessing 7, 8, 9 assists.
9
at
assists.
times they're a little out of control, but he had a lot of energy. I thought he played. All the guards played pretty solid. I think they got some good moments from all of them, which they're going to need. But I thought that was one of his better games this year. I thought he did some good things out there, and I was a little surprised.
I was a little confused. Because he sat with about 5:20 left in the game and didn't come back. And I really, I thought that, and I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but I just thought that there were a few possessions there where Ulis didn't look real comfortable.
Because
he might have played a good game.
Yeah, they might want a little more size in there with their zone to cover up threes a little bit better. That might be one possibility, but I was a little surprised myself.
But that's all I got.
Thanks for the call.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Really good to see you, Gary. You look great.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Have a great night, caller. Appreciate it. All right. I know you got to get going, Gary. So before I let you slide here,
sure,
I got to ask you because the questions come up, and certainly we have to look ahead a bit. We got a big game coming up. We haven't talked about Wisconsin's Purdue over Wisconsin's win over Purdue. And that's what a lot of people in the chat here are wondering. First of all, who's going to score more, Johnny Davis or Keegan Murray?
I'll tell you what, that's a matchup because both of them are playing at a real. Johnny Davis was phenomenal tonight.
Boy, wasn't he?
And they needed every point. He had 37 and he had 14 rebounds. And that was a huge, huge win. That was, there are not going to be very many teams that are going to go into Purdue and win. And they really led that game a good part of the way. And their defense was terrific. And he was phenomenal. And Davidson made some big shots when they needed it. So that was a huge win for Wisconsin. Iowa's got their work cut out for going up there. That'll be a heck of a matchup. I don't know if they'll guard each other. I'm guessing Wall might guard Murray, but it'll be interesting to see. But that's to see those two on the court at the same time is going to be fun.
So will you tell us who you're rooting for in that game?
Wow, that is a tough one.
I'm putting you on the spot here, Gary.
Yeah,
if you say the Badgers, it's understandable.
Well, I got my son. My son's a manager for the Hawkeyes.
Right.
So how can I go against that?
Blood's thicker than water, right?
You bet it.
All right, Coach. It's been a pleasure as always. Of course, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm going to stick around with everybody here for a while and take some calls if anybody wants to give us a call. But if anybody doesn't have the schedule, Iowa versus Wisconsin this Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time on FS1. So, Gary, I'm assuming we'll get to talk to you. I know it's another late tip, but this one's up in Madison. So we'll get to compare the crowds. We'll see what the crowd's like in Madison this Thursday.
Yep. I'm guessing the crowd's going to be pretty good. They'll probably be fired up after Wisconsin beat Purdue tonight. That's a big win for them. So I would hope they'll come out in force. That would be a great road win for Iowa. That would be a gigantic step. And they played well at Purdue. So I give them a chance. I think they got a shot to go up there and get a win, and they're going to have to play well. But in this league on the road, that's par for the course. So should be a fun night.
And, Coach, this game tonight was a huge, huge win. As close to a must-win as you can have it, because you could easily be 0-4 tonight.
Yep, you got to get your home games, and they're moving in the right direction. That's all you can ask.
All right, Coach, we'll cut you loose. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you Thursday.
Take care.
Coach Gary Close, as always, we appreciate his generosity with his time, and we certainly – you got to be thankful if you're an Iowa fan for this win, because it easily could be 0-3 right now, and you're staring in the face of an 0-4 start, depending on what happens on Thursday against Wisconsin, because, man, Wisconsin looked good tonight against Purdue. And to win at Mackey is one of the toughest things to do. Now, Gary did bring up maybe a smaller crowd than typically the case in West Lafayette, but that's just a huge win. And now Purdue, all of a sudden, talk about the strength of this conference. Purdue, number 3 in the country. They were number 1 a couple of weeks ago, and now that team's 1-2 in the Big Ten Conference after losing on the road at Rutgers and at home against Wisconsin. So Purdue's got some work to do as well. Taking your calls, taking your chats here for a while longer. Iowa defeating Maryland tonight, 80-75. On the strong performance of Keegan Murray, 35 points, 14 of 21 from the field, including a 5 of 6 performance from 3. What a shooting night for that kid. And he's got a really nice shooting stroke. So that 3-point shot is, again, it was only a matter of time before he started making those more consistently. Chris is, this is something we didn't bring up with Coach Close. Chris is starting to press a little bit. He's young. He's going to have times where maybe he's not playing his best basketball. I thought he had a couple nice passes. He had the defense collapsed on him on the one play, and he shot it out to the wing for the open 3 for Keegan. But Chris is struggling a bit from outside. We saw him get hot from 3 earlier this year. But again, what we're seeing from Keegan right now from outside is very encouraging, 5 of 6. And again, if he can continue to shoot at even close to that clip, he is a lottery pick, and I don't think there's any doubt about it. He can score at every level. We even saw the turnaround fadeaway Dirk-style shot. Just incredible performance from Keegan tonight. And Johnny Davis for Wisconsin. That is going to be a matchup this coming Thursday. Good to have you here with us, David. Go Hawks, absolutely. And the real Hayden, I apologize for this. We had to let Coach Close go. He had some matters to attend to, but we got to ask Coach Close sometimes about favorite refs, hated refs, any funny stories about refs. I will say this, Hayden, and we can talk to Coach about this, but there are times where I've brought up in the past to Coach about officiating, and he doesn't typically talk a whole lot about officials. And, that's usually how coaches are, I think, for the most part. And I've had private conversations with Coach, and he doesn't really say anything about officiating, but we will ask him because I'm sure, he certainly, Ted Valentine, I know he's probably familiar with Ted. And then of course, Ed Hightower I would guess Ed Hightower. I know Iowa fans had some beef with Ed at times, but Ed Hightower is one of the probably most respected officials of all time in the Big Ten. So we will have that conversation. You'll have to bring that up on a future show with Coach. Spaghetti Factory would be cool if Iowa State discontinued their football, just went all in on basketball, and Iowa vice versa. I think both those schools would thrive in their respective sports. You want Iowa to discontinue basketball, Spaghetti Factory? I hope you're not being serious. I understand that, I think attendance right now is a problem, and Coach maybe doesn't think as much as I do that it is an issue. I do believe that getting students involved is a problem that Iowa has, and I'm not sure how you fix it. But what I will say is they do have a problem, and specifically as it relates to students, because students are not coming to these games right now. And unless you can figure out a way to get students to want to come to games, and I think you got to do more than just give them a free pizza now and then. They got to figure out a way because, man, the environment is just the polar opposite of life in Kinnick Stadium. I mean, it's unbelievable. You got Kinnick as one of the best home venues in the Big Ten, maybe in the country. And you have to admit right now, Carver is in the bottom half, maybe bottom third of the Big Ten as far as environments. Now, we'll see what, Penn State and some of these sleepy arenas or inherently sleepy arenas, what they're like when Iowa visits them. But boy, Carver needs to get a boost somehow. Thank you for calling Iowa Postgame from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Greg Williams from Battle Creek, Michigan. I was Kenyon's high school coach.
Oh, how are you, sir? Well, you missed Coach Close here by a few minutes.
I did. I was trying to get on, but I didn't see your number, and it just came across. I actually, when he was at Wisconsin, when they were going through their those Final Four runs, I had a player at Ohio State, and his senior year, Gary walked by, and I said, "Coach Close," and he looked at me real strange. He didn't know who I was, and because it's been quite some time. So he went into the locker room. When he came back out, he kind of looked at me and smiled. I think it kind of hit him who I was. So I just want to say hello to him. And I've been to a couple games this year. I've been to that environment out in environment. And I've been there through those Hawkeye games when Chris Street passed away, and they came back in overtime at Michigan State, and then they beat the Fab Five out there at Carver Hawkeyes. So I've been out there during Kenyon's time out there. Some great Hawkeye games. Also, Monterey Glasper played for me, our KZoo Blue team. And, Gary was talking about the first time he saw us in San Antonio. That's when we had our KZoo Blue team down there. We actually had Derek Jeter on that team. So
okay.
we had some great athletes. I just want to tell Gary hello. Sorry I missed him.
That's okay. Can I get your name again, sir? I missed it.
Yeah, Coach Greg Greg Williams.
Well, Coach Williams, I know that Gary will. I know he had some affairs to tend to this evening, but certainly call us back on a different day. I have to ask you, how would you compare Kenyon at that age to a young Chris and Keegan?
Well, and again, Kenyon was an extraordinary athlete, just hard worker. Coach Davis, when Rich Walker came in and they got him, it was the right fit for Kenyon, the right style, and he came out here. Obviously, him and Monterey and had real good careers out here, a lot of success. And Kenyon, I think, says it the best. He always told me, he says, Coach, these guys are so much further ahead than me.
Yeah.
Than where I was in high school, but I think he meant from a basketball IQ standpoint, because obviously they grew up, in his household, being a former player and coach. And Kenyon did get started playing, I think, really basketball until 8th grade.
Wow.
So he got a late start, but from that standpoint, I think he'll be the one to tell you that, because I think of them being around the game as little toddlers and always being around it and have those hoops in the living room. And, I had a son that played collegiately also. And I think those things are important when you're a coach's son. So I think that's what you're seeing. Kenyon to be the first one to tell you that, those guys are a lot better than he was.
I got to ask you, because I know Coach Close talked a little bit about Kenyon's recruitment, but what was it from your perspective? What schools were in on him the hardest?
Well, obviously Michigan State, we're in on him real hard. Again, Rich, I consider Rich Walker a brother. Iowa did a great job recruiting him. I think, obviously I've had players play at Michigan State and Michigan also, but give you a quick story. David Hart played at Michigan State, and he was in Kenyon's class. They both were in the Big Ten at the same time. Well, when Kenyon had already signed with Iowa, already committed to Iowa, and so Judd came in, and Tom was with him, Izzo, and I think Jimmy Boylan. I don't know if Jimmy was still there. There was another assistant. Well, they came in. We were doing all of our introductions, saying hello and everything, and so then Judd gets to me and he says, Greg, I want to thank you for everything you did to get Kenyon to Iowa. And I said, Judd, all I do is take kids different places, and it's their choice. But that was typical Judd. But I don't think at the time, Michigan, I think, dubbed me the Iowa guy because Kenyon went out there. You know how that goes. Gary knows how that goes in recruiting. Those guys are battling, and I try to expose kids to as many situations as possible. And we went to a lot of games, and I think it does. It comes down to the kids making the first major choice in their life. And Kenyon loved Iowa from the very first time we visited. I think when he was a sophomore, going into his junior year, and it just seemed to he stuck with it. And again, I think he's pretty happy about coming to Iowa, being a Hawkeye, and obviously what's happening with Chris and Keegan right now.
I got to ask you, is Rich Walker, is he still down in Texas? Last I knew, was he doing scouting down in Texas? Rich
is in Texas. I talked to him about a couple of months ago. We were talking about a family member, one of his family members' daughters. Our daughter and son were going to Western Michigan, and so we talked about that. I connected with their dad, try to have a connection with them and get them involved in the community, but I believe he still is in Texas. I don't know what he's doing as far as basketball wise. I just know he's enjoying those grandkids.
Well, I know Coach Don Patterson of Iowa football, he had such high marks for both Coach Close and Coach Walker when I was talking to him about potential people to have on this show in the wintertime. So I know Rich was very highly respected around the Iowa program. So, but it was great to have you call in, sir. And Coach, be sure to give us a call when Gary's on. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. But I'll mention that you called in a couple minutes late.
Yeah, I definitely will. I got your number now. The number wasn't scrolling across the screen. It said it was busy. So,
yeah.
Again, I listen to you guys after the game all the time. And I just was going to get on to rib Gary a little bit about not recognizing me there at Ohio State.
Well, you said you still live in Battle Creek. Am I correct in saying that?
I do live in Battle Creek right now, but I'm getting ready to move back to Ohio. I'm originally from Oxford, Ohio, Miami, Ohio. I'm back. I'm getting ready to move back there. I'm retired. Been retired about 6 years, and so yeah, I still live in Battle Creek at this time. No coaching or anything, and but still run summer youth programs. But other than that, that's basically what I'm doing in Battle Creek right now.
Well, I'm sure you're enjoying watching Kenyon's kids, and I'm sure it makes you feel old, but makes you feel I'm proud at the same time, I'm sure.
Well, absolutely. I'm going to probably be at Wisconsin. I've got to look and see if I can get there Thursday. And
okay.
I really enjoyed that question you gave to Gary. And he has blood is thicker than water. He's got to go with the sun being being a Hawks, or he wouldn't hear the end of that.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, it's been a pleasure meeting you and getting to know you a little bit, and we'll talk to you again sometime after an Iowa win, hopefully.
Definitely. Okay. Take care.
All right, Coach. Have a great night. That was enjoyable. Hear from Coach Greg Williams, Kenyon Murray's high school coach, and yeah, missed Gary by just a few minutes, but I'll be sure to forward that on to Coach Close. And always love hearing from Connecticut. You know, we had Arlen Bruce's dad give us a call before the Big Ten championship game, so always nice to hear that the show is reaching some different parts of the country. And Coach Williams still in Battle Creek, says he's in the process of moving back to Ohio. So in answer to your question here, Hayden, I see this here in the chat. Yes, he still does live in Battle Creek, and certainly high regard for not only Kenyon but his two kids, what they're doing. And I just can't imagine being in Coach Williams' position and seeing this go full circle in the family. But again, got to be proud of what that family's been able to do. Spaghetti Factory, going back to the arena, Iowa State doesn't have a big enough fan base to fill up a 70,000 stadium consistently. Iowa can. ISU can fill up Hilton consistently, especially during Big 12 season. The schools should specialize. So are you saying, I mean, again, you have a right to your opinion, but are you saying you'd rather Iowa not do basketball than do basketball with a less than full arena? I don't agree with that. I mean, I'm all for figuring out a way for Iowa to get students at these games. Let's remember, Carver at times has been rocking, even back in the Alford era. I mean, it was certainly rocking during the Tom Davis era, but there were times during the Alford era where it was packed, and there have been times during the Fran era where it's been packed. But to me, there are too many variables that have to fall perfectly in place for this to happen. And I'm not trying to ostracize anybody. Fans have a right to spend their money the way they want to spend their money. I'm sitting here at my house in Ames, not at games typically. So I understand it. Now it's a 2-hour drive for me. So certainly tip time is a factor. You go to an 8 p.m. game, you live in Ames, you go to an 8 p.m. game and you're not getting back till 12:30. That's ridiculous. At the earliest, 12:30 at the earliest, right? By the time you get out to your vehicle and whatnot. So, but with that being said, there are a lot of Iowa fans. I mean, Kinnick is packed basically every Saturday. This is a fun team to watch, and I do think it falls on the university to figure out ways to get students at these games. Yes, I know that the students are on break, but you're telling me there aren't some students in Iowa City during break? That's not that. I've lived in a college town for too long to know that's just false. Now, I can't compare it. I haven't watched a lot of college basketball these last couple of weeks. I've been focused on bowl season, but I see other arenas with a lot more students consistently, even when we're not talking finals, we're not talking breaks. There are a lot of students at games, and I'm just disappointed by it. Now, maybe they'll start showing up. If Iowa beats Wisconsin Thursday, I mean, if that doesn't get fans to get to these games, I don't know what will. And we can use the excuse, well, 8 p.m. games are too late, 6 p.m. games are too early. The concession stands are too long. You don't like to walk down the steps of Carver and have to walk all the way back. Parking is difficult. It's winter driving. I mean, you can come up with all kinds of excuses, right? But again, there are so many other programs, Big Ten programs and the like, that find a way to basically pack their arenas night in and night out. So I think those are sorry excuses, to be completely honest. And it doesn't necessarily fall on the fans. I am bringing that out because I think that's a factor, but to me, that's apologizing. That's an apologist way of thinking for excusing a problem that I think the athletic department has to address, right? I don't think those are valid excuses. And again, there are things that the athletic department has to do to help this situation. I do think, and I saw this comment, I know some media members, Iowa media members, that have been very outspoken about it. I'm not the first one to come up with the idea, but letting students in for free, I don't quite get what the problem is. What is the issue with letting students in for free? Are we real? I mean, they're not at the games now. So at least during break, why not let them in for free during break? Wouldn't that be incentive? Wouldn't that be smart? Like, start with that. If you're concerned with it, if you're concerned with revenue, there were no students at this game tonight. I mean, there weren't any students. I didn't hear them. I didn't see them. Now, I wasn't at the game, but somebody tell me otherwise. Real Hayden, you were at this game, right? Were there students at this game? Because I sure didn't hear them. And yeah, there is an arena problem, right? There's no question that the layout of the arena doesn't always help. But it'd be nice to see more, because this is a fun team to watch, right? They're going to lose some games. They're going to get out rebounded at times, although they've really bettered the rebounding issues, right? I mean, they only lost the rebounding battle tonight by 4. They got doubled up on against Illinois. They are improving as the season goes on. It's going to be a fun team to watch, I think, from start to finish. So I hope students start showing up. I hope more fans start showing up. It looked like a decent number of just your common fans showed up to this game tonight. But again, students are what make these games lively and raucous. And I think there's a way to go. Hawkeye Howard, we're going to talk about football tomorrow afternoon. I footballed myself out. Get a portal quarterback. Kirk Ferentz retire. Oops, did I say that? Well, we'll talk about the portal tomorrow. Absolutely. All thumbs agrees. Students need to be let in for free. All right. Now, it's sort of like how I feel about the Iowa offense and the transfer portal. Just show me you're doing something to address the need, right? Even if you can't go out and get a transfer portal quarterback, at least show me you're contacting some qualified candidates. I just want to know you're out there. I want to know you're trying to fix the problem, more than just saying, well, we're going to keep grinding. That's not enough. No, that's not enough. I don't want to hear that you're buying a quick star pizza for every 100 student that comes through the doors, or, you got to make a half court shot. We're going to select a student at halftime to make a half court shot to win a $19.99 pizza. That's not how you remedy a situation. I just want to see some steps, right, to address that. Hey, we've got a problem with student attendance, with attendance in general, and we need to figure out a way to remedy it. So that's what I would say. My biggest issue right now with the attendance, it's the lack of students. It starts with students. And yes, I know if you line the students up around the court, you're going to have these wealthy donors that are ticked off because they can't see the game, and I want to be able to sit during a game. There are ways to make everybody happy, right? Michigan State's a perfect example. They found a way. I know it's partly the design of the arena, but you're telling me you can't reconfigure part of Carver to a point where you can have some students, and maybe you delete some seating. Maybe you get rid of some seating as a result. But you're telling me there's not a way to get some students behind the visiting bench, and maybe across from the visiting bench, and be able to still satisfy the wealthy people. And I understand the wealthy people are what make the finances go round, right, in the athletic department. But man alive, you'd think at least a good portion of them would want something done about student seating. And if you don't, why are you going to games? Why are you donating money to a program that doesn't have students attending the game? These students are the future of these are future alumni. These are future potential donors to the program. You've got to be able to, they're paying thousands of dollars. These students who are out-of-staters are paying tens of thousands of dollars for tuition. You can't give them free tickets to basketball games. To me, that's absurd. That's just absurd. Real Hayden says, shout out to the full court golf shot guys during TV timeouts. Back-to-back games. Some guys made the putt, highlight of the night in both games. They win a pizza, Coach? Or Hayden? They win a pizza. I'd like to know. Eric, I agree. You can't give up basketball. What would we do all winter? I agree. What would we do all winter? It's kind of one of the things that helps me get through the cold, dark periods of winter because, good Lord, I hate winter. I really, really do. All right, Hawkeye Howard, is it time for Carver to be replaced with a new building? I've heard this brought up on numerous occasions. Carver's not going to be replaced with a new building. A couple of reasons why. Well, the main reason why is just money, right? They just spent all that money, millions and millions of dollars. You're probably talking, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars it would take to replace Carver. And where are you going to build Carver? You're not going to wreck it, right? You're not just going to rebuild there. There's not really space downtown. You've got Extreme Arena, but of course that's not a university arena. I don't know what you do as far. I think that's a ways away, Hawkeye Howard. I think it's probably going to happen at some point, but not within the next 10 years would be my guess. Carver's not old enough. And I just think before you take a wrecking ball to Carver, there are certain measures you can take to get to a point where you can say, well, we've done all we can to help student attendance and fan attendance, but I don't think everything has been done that could be done. The Real Hayden, very few students tonight. Also, like I said earlier, every time the crowd gets into it, there's either a TV timeout and the energy is dead when they come back, or Maryland comes down and scores. Yeah, that was a factor tonight. But man, I'm telling you, Hayden, I just watching this game on TV, it's honestly sad. There were a couple moments where the game, where Iowa was on a run, they take the lead, and the fans are in the game. You can hear them on their feet. You can see them on their feet. You can hear them. And then you're right. Quick shot, and everybody sits down. And that's a typical Iowa thing. But when it's a packed house, it's so much different. It is so much different. And unless the students come back, unless the students are in there, it's just not going to be. I don't care how many regular fans you have in there. It's just not the same. It's just not a college basketball atmosphere. The Real Hayden says the kid who made the putt tonight won a student season ticket to 2022 football. All right, well, that's fine. Let's give away some basketball season tickets to some students. All right, and maybe they're doing that. Maybe there's some things that are happening that I'm not aware of. Yeah. Again, I know we can talk till we're blue in the face about the seating issue and the attendance issue. Let's wait. Again, I think there's still a ways out as far as students coming back. I don't think that's a totally valid excuse for not having any students. I mean, the one shot where the play where Ayala leaned into Bohannon on the 3-point attempt, and they panned back, and you could see, I mean, literally right behind the baskets, just empty seats. That is a bad look. That's a bad look for a team. Now, I know they haven't played a great schedule, but that's no excuse. This is the good part of the schedule, all right? Maryland's not a bottom feeder Big Ten team. It doesn't matter if they were a bottom feeder Big Ten team. Iowa's competing. Iowa is in the hunt for an NCAA tournament spot with an improved defense, a team that's fun to watch. They get out in transition, and they've got a potential lottery pick in Keegan Murray, who is as great as Luka Garza was last year. You could argue Keegan Murray is better. You could argue that because of his potential at the next level. He's a different player. I get that. He's not going to break any of Luka's records. I understand that. But I think we need to appreciate what we have here. And for the record, I did go to Iowa State, Iowa. So, I try to do what I can. There were more fans at that. I know it's a smaller arena, but man, that Utah State game up at the Pentagon, that place was packed and it was loud. And there weren't a lot of students there, but it was packed with fans. So clearly you've got to get more students into Carver because you're not going to be able to pack it unless those student sections are filled. Hayden says we had students at the Illinois game and it was not a great environment. Now, I was not there, Hayden, but from what I remember on television, there were some students, but it was not even close to full. And honestly, why would students want to be packed? This is I understand the layout and a lot of arenas are built this way. and set up this way. But why would you as a student want to be all the way up at the end, in the end zone at the very top of Carver, the worst seats in the house? I just don't. Again, incentive, folks. Incentive. What incentive are we giving kids to come? They're paying thousands in tuition, and yet you're asking them to still pay to come to a game with bad seats. I just don't get it. And I think if you spread them out, I understand you have to take care of your donors, but if you spread them out, it would give students more incentive to come as well, because they would realize, hey, we're making more of a difference than we used to. That would be what I would say on that. Again, I could be wrong as far as the layout. Maybe there's not much you can do as far as the layout, but there are certainly ways to get the ticket idea for one, or just say $5 tickets for if you're going to only charge $5, why not just let the students in for free? It's almost the precedent of it. Like, why do we even need, or the principle of it? Why do you even need to charge at that point? That's just, again, my opinion. I could be wrong. All right, last call for the phone lines before we hang it up for the night. Appreciate all the calls and interaction this evening with Coach Close and myself. 515-635-1601. 515-635-1601 is our number. Iowa, again, with the impressive 80-75 win over the Maryland Terrapins. Keegan Murray with a game high and career high, 35 points on just 21 shots, 14-21 from the field, 8 rebounds. He was 5 of 6 from 3, setting up what should be just a terrific. I'm looking at the television set here with Big Ten Network, showing some of the highlights of Johnny Davis. What should be a terrific matchup up at the Kohl Center on Thursday between two guys who play the same position and play it really, really well. Johnny Davis may be more of a 3, whereas you could argue Keegan is more of a 4. But, man, we're splitting hairs there. These guys are terrific potential lottery picks going up. Again, kind of an underrated matchup on FS1 on Thursday. And, Hayden, you're right. People don't really appreciate what we have in Keegan Murray, I think, yet. Hopefully they do, because the bottom line here is he's like Gary said, as much as we don't want to believe this, there's a good chance Keegan is gone heading into next year. Eric says, who can step up if Keegan struggles a game or two? We saw Philip Bracha with 13 tonight. Chris was the second leading scorer at one point. He's slowed down a bit. Jordan has slowed down a lot. Again, the Big Ten knows Jordan Bohannon. They know him. And now he's playing off the ball. They got to figure out a way to get him open some more, because, man, he's slowed down a little bit here now as we get back into conference play. Even if you look back at the Iowa State game, he played okay against Iowa State, but was shut down against Purdue. Didn't do much against Illinois. Don't think he did I made a few threes maybe against. I'm trying to think of the Utah State game. He had one game in there where he made a lot of threes, but for the most part, he has struggled a bit, and he's got to make threes. If he's not making threes, unfortunately, he is a liability on the court. And I don't know how many minutes. Let's just see. I want to check to see how many minutes Bohannon ended up with tonight, because he was on the bench a good part of that. Second half. I'll make sure our call line is open. Yeah, I thought someone was giving us a call there. So Jordan, let me pull up the official box score from the university, because it was just sent out a few minutes ago. All right, so Bohannon had for the day 27 and a half minutes. So he played good minutes. The starters certainly played the most minutes by far. The only bench guy that played more than 15 minutes was Connor McCaffrey with 18. Of course, he didn't do much offensively. But yeah, Jordan's a liability when he's not making threes. They got to figure out a way to get him open for 3. They got to figure out a way. They've got to figure out a way to get Chris Murray back going, because, man, his athleticism and paired with Keegan, that is a terrible tandem in a good way. And so they could certainly, I think there are options there. Tony Perkins has struggled a little bit. He was really rolling there for a while. And then Patrick struggled tonight. I think Patrick is probably your logical number 2 scorer on this team. So he's got to get going again. Struggled tonight, but again, hasn't really been struggling overall. All thumbs up. Creighton's arena is amazing. No matter how good they are, it's hard to get a ticket. We should follow what they're doing to fill seats. That's a 20,000 seat arena. And yeah, and again, I know it's close to Omaha. Or is it in Omaha? I don't remember where Creighton's at. Somewhere in the Omaha area. So there's more fans in that area. I get that. But, man, the fan base, you wouldn't think the fan base would be as big, even regionally, as an Iowa fan base. But I guess I could be wrong. Iowa City's got, 100,000 plus people in the area at Coralville and Iowa City combined. And, of course, you pair Cedar Rapids and Des Moines, which is about an hour and a half away. So, and I know the real Hayden, you brought this up the other day. You're driving, an hour and a half each way, hour 15. That's a long drive. And so there are fans doing that. And I just wish, because they're going to be at there. Eventually, there's going to come a time if the student issue doesn't get resolved, there are going to be times where fans stop buying season tickets because they would rather watch at home if there's not a great environment at the game. And that's just going to be a snowball effect. So you hope that doesn't happen. Hayden, what are the chances of a Davison fight, or we fight Davison on Thursday? Well, chances are it would be Connor, because remember, Davison gave Connor a no-no shot here about a year or two ago, right? And Davison got suspended for it. I've told Coach Close I'm not a big fan of Brad Davison. I think he plays dirty. I know, I'm sure Wisconsin fans like him, but he's had a bad rep for a while, and this is his last year there. I don't think he's got any eligibility after this. So, yeah, I know a lot of people who feel this way, Eric. People want Brad Davison gone from Wisconsin, but boy, Johnny Davis is really coming to his own for the Badgers. And yes, Creighton is in Omaha. I just don't know, as far as the alumni base, what that alumni base is like. I'm sure it's pretty significant. Obviously, most people in that area are Husker fans, but I don't really think that's much of a rivalry. I don't even know, does Creighton play Nebraska every year? I'm just wondering the alumni base and how loyal they are to that Creighton program. It must be significant then if they're packing an arena that big. And certainly, Greg, got to give Greg McDermott a lot of credit. He's done really good stuff at Creighton since he left Iowa State. All right, Iowa, Wisconsin, Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time on FS1. And boy, that's going to be a fun one up at the Kohl Center. Iowa in danger of falling to 1-3, but boy, they needed this win tonight, and they got it. The 80-75 win over the Maryland Terrapins. It will be a matchup against a top 25 Wisconsin team, fresh off a win on the road at number 3 Purdue. So should be a fun one. And boy, Iowa went 3-0 against the Badgers last year. So the Badgers are primed for a win and certainly will be the favorites in that game. I don't have a line yet for that game, but I'm sure Wisconsin will be favored by, I would guess 5 or 6 would be my initial hunch. But it should be a great one. Again, Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Time on FS1. And then, of course, tune in here for our Iowa basketball postgame with Coach Close following the game. Please share our show on social media if you haven't already done so. It helps us grow. And if you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. Please subscribe. Tell your friends, please, about this show. It does help us to grow our listener base. And we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. If you missed any of the show or want to tell others how to listen to it after the fact, of course, you can listen to the podcasted version right here on YouTube. You can also listen to it through our podcast. All right. So our podcast, From the Hawkeye of the Storm, we are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, but we're also, I'm going to throw this up on the bottom ticker there, From the Hawkeye of the Storm on Spotify, Apple, Google, Anchor, wherever you listen to podcasts. So by morning, I know it's a late night, so I can't promise it tonight, but by morning, this postgame show will be in audio format on our podcast platform. So search From the Hawkeye of the Storm and enjoy the on-demand version of our show. All right, folks, appreciate it. As always, we appreciate Coach Close joining us this evening. Iowa with an impressive 80-75 victory. We'll talk to you after Iowa's big game on Thursday against the Wisconsin Badgers. It's the Hawks and the Badgers from the Kohl Center in Madison. Thursday, 8 p.m. We'll be here for Iowa postgame at about 10 p.m. Central Time on Thursday. We'll talk to you over at Iowa at the Voice of College Football for our weekly Iowa Live with Mark Rogers tomorrow, Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. Central Time, talking all things Hawkeye football.